leaves me with a problem like I ring the bell. There's no Nancy.
Well, that's okay, because I'm the one who reads the chalice line. Our chalice lighting this morning comes from Florence Cap Law. All animals are our relatives. We light this chalice in honor of the animal realm, furred and hoofed, two-legged, four-legged, many-legged, fanged and clawed, gentle and fierce, wild and tame. May we remember that all animals are our relatives, worthy of our care and respect.
This elderly Chihuahua stares at me early in the morning, eyes intent, waiting for something, maybe everything. The moment is still the essence of anticipation until, with one little pet of this one little head, the tail starts wagging. Thwapping as if to power a mighty engine, it goes, alive with the touch of the one whom one tiny creature trusts above all others. Is there any welcome in the whole world quite like the welcome of a dog? When you wake up in the morning, when you come home in the afternoon, today there are indeed creatures great and small, from Archie to Macy here in this space. There are creatures of blessed memory right here among us in this space. And while we offer one another that kind of welcome, the exuberant welcome that says, I am so very glad you are here, if it is your first or your 4,000th time among us in this place, perhaps your first time visiting for this admittedly unusual annual event of ours, I want you to know that we are in the whole holy chaos of it together. Throughout our animal blessing service today, we'll be welcoming one another into a practice of deep gratitude for our interconnections across species and across creation. If you brought a picture or a memento, a memory, or indeed a creature, you are all welcome. And please note that at any time in the service, you can go to our table of memory and of celebration to light a candle, to take a stone, to place an object on that space. Indeed, all are welcome. And guess what? I am so, so happy to see you. If I had a tail, like my dog Macy, I just might wag it. I invite you in that spirit of abundance and the unexpected grace that comes with things being a little off kilter to turn and greet one another. Oh. as we find our way back to our seats, I feel like the music of this morning has truly already begun. And yet now I invite all of us to raise our voices in song. Our opening hymn, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, will have lyrics right there on the back wall.
Saint Francis of Assisi once wrote, "Ask the animals and they will teach you the beauty of this earth." There is a deep mutuality experienced when one shares a home and a life and a heart with an animal companion. While we are the main providers of the food and the health care, the belly rubs, the ear scratches, they teach us deep lessons about the beauty of simply living. My cat Zelda, she doesn't care what other people think of her. My cat Zelda isn't self-conscious or poring over what the right decision should be or reliving the embarrassing moment. My cat Zelda lives in the moment. She refuses to be uncomfortable, and she does exactly what she needs to do in any moment. What a lesson she is in presence and self-care. What a lesson and a joy it is to care for one another. What a blessing it is to live as equals. And now's the time when we bless our animal companions, whether they're here with us this morning or they're far away. I invite anyone who would like to join us up the front to come up now, or right from where you're at if you're watching the live stream at home. Please come forward with your pets or your mementos or your pictures, or you can stay right where you are. Won't you join us for the animal blessing?
Do come on up.
I don't want to stab you.
Come on up. Oh, absolutely. There's room to bring your senior cat picture. Come on up. For all of us, go ahead and array yourselves as best and as comfortably as you can, understanding that sharing space is complex for humans and for creatures too. We bless you on this day, both those in beloved memory, those here before us, those held in photograph and in our hearts. You, birds of the air, hawk, sparrow, and great noisy laughing jay, you embody freedom itself. You delight us with your song. You astound us with your feats of migration and movement. You grant us your perspective, for too often our horizon is limited, and we are blind to the full results of our actions.
You worms of the earth, ants, beetles, spiders, centipedes, you are the essential but oft forgotten strand in nature's web. Through you, the cycle is complete. Through you, new life arises from old. Remind us of our humility, for the wheel of life does not turn around us. We are not the axle, but merely the spokes, no less than unseen, unknown and shunned companions such as yourselves.
You creatures of the field and wood, marsh and desert, bear and bison and skunk and squirrel, wolf and weasel. Now, Macy, why did I get to weasel right when I came to you? Too often we have sacrificed your homes in the name of progress. Too often we have cut your forests to fill our desire, or covered the earth with tarmac and cement and suburban lawn. We pray today that we might remember that the earth was not given for our needs alone, and that what we do to you, eventually, we do to ourselves.
You dearest companions in our lives, dogs and cats, hamsters and goldfish, you who are with us today, and you who are always present in our memories. You have enriched our lives in so many ways, endured our shortcomings with calm acceptance, taught us something of our humanity, taught us how to love. May we hold you in our hearts throughout these days of our lives.
Amen. Blessed be. And we invite the gathered company, as you are able, to return to your seats.
Oh, how cute.
The babies are so beautiful. Yes. I agree, Archie. Can I just tell you, that dog is beloved to me. I have, in fact, chased that beautiful Siberian Husky down Little Falls Parkway once when he got away from our beloved Fred's house, and he's a lot faster than I am. Imagine an afternoon right here at River Road. Imagine that a family has arrived to plan a memorial service for someone they loved so much there are not enough words to describe it. Grief comes in those moments, in these strange electric jolts, underneath all the pleasantries and the logistics. Our beloved facilities manager, Mandy Kelly, who's right back there, she always asked at some point, "Do you like dogs?" And on to the scene would come a gracefully moving Siberian Husky, smaller than Archie, but beautiful just the same. One blue eye, one brown, with a face like a wizened prophet. She walked with purpose and ease, and with no language we can speak or magic we can duplicate. She moved right, always, to the side of the grieving widow or the one who wept, the one who had no words for what they had lost. This magical dog, a great furred lap in the head, found the grieving as if by following a compass of the people's deep need. And understanding that humans cannot communicate alone. The tears fell. The church dog did her ministry once again. Some of you may know that our church dog here at River Road, Serena, a greater pastor than most of us who went to seminary will ever be, passed away last month. She was our colleague and our friend, and in her, There lies a window into a grief that is held by so many, including, I know, so many of you. A sweetness and a sorrow for which we are strangely grateful, that in their living, these creatures, whom we have moved alongside, taught us something about how to love. And so we're reading in memory, and an invitation to find in your heart the spaces of memory and of hope for the creatures you have loved and lost. When Your Best Friend Has Four or So Legs by Teresa Soto. What it means to have a pet is to love someone who speaks a language you do not. A dog will bow and prance, a cat will purr and blink, a guinea pig will giggle and squeak, the dog's pink tongue lolling in a goofy grin, the cat convinced that kneading and grooming are crucial to this day of yours. A bird asking for a treat, bending a wing to wave, these are friends, these are loves. It is kind of a surprise that you should love someone so much who would eat the butter on the table if they could get away with it. And get endless hair on the sofa when they aren't even supposed to be on the furniture. When they are called companion animals, it is such an open, tender truth, this love. The comfort of fingers to fur and big, adoring eyes, these are friends, these are loves. They stretch our hearts and fill them with their abundance of kindness. When they are gone, our hearts remain larger. Through their absence, there is room left for expanses of grief. Their love champions and companions us still. And so for the championing and the companioning of that love, this morning, accompanied by the chorus of our own barking voices, we have images of our own church dog, Serena, to share with you. Serena doing her ministry right here among us. While the images and the music dance together, we hope that in the eyes of this one dog, you will see a window into all those who have companioned you, and that as you are so moved, light a candle and say a prayer, knowing that indeed you might also be most deeply grateful. holding all the memories and the gratitude for these creatures who have championed and companioned us, I invite us to take just a few moments of relative silence in the chorus of our own hearts to make space for memory, out of which we will raise up a song that we sing as a prayer written on our heart, Spirit of Life. When we are in community together, we give in so many ways. We give of time, of presence, of talent, and yes, of treasure when and how we can, to support not only the work that we do, but the community we create for one another. In this place, we don't give until it hurts. We give until it feels good because it's in alignment with our values. And we invite you, as our offering plays, to give of your many gifts. There's so many ways to do so. There's a box in the back. We'll pass baskets. You can give online. You can text to give at 73256. And we invite you also to continue lighting candles. You can take a stone. You can place something there on the altar in memory and in hope. What a blessing it is to take the many gifts we have and lift them up to what we hold most dear.
Survival of the fittest. It's one of our most culturally defining phrases. The idea that survival is based on how much power one can attain or how much control one can exert seems to be the backbone of so many of our systems. The notion that nature will favor those who are strong and independent, those who can win the fight. And it's often used to justify all kinds of violence and destruction to ourselves, to one another, to our planet. Yes, we've given a lot of meaning to this social Darwinism. And we use the natural world to justify it all. But what we also know, that we've learned time and time again, that we've talked so much about, is that it is actually cooperation, interdependence, and mutuality that keep our world turning. Survival of the fittest is actually survival of the nurtured. Today's worship service centers the animal blessing, one of my favorite UU observances, where we get to show gratitude for all the creatures of this earth, this tradition that comes from the Catholic blessing of the animals on the feast of St. Francis. And there's honestly not that much difference between what we do and what that blessing is. St. Francis was known for his special connection to nature and to the animals. And he was also known for being socially engaged. Having taken a vow of poverty, coming from the upper class, he in a sense became an advocate for the disenfranchised. I also appreciate this service because it gives us a chance to marvel at and learn from the non-human life around us. Not just how they serve us as pets and companions, but also to explore what they create regardless of us, what they seem to tap into so easily. And it's something that it seems to which St. Francis was also deeply connected and deeply drawn. This morning's inspiration comes from up above and down below. The mind-blowing murmurations of starlings in the sky and the intricate complexities of ant colonies. Covenant and stewardship in action. In an article titled "The Emergence of Connected Consciousness," author Paul Linda writes, "The murmurations of starlings is something exceptional to witness. There's a harmony and perfection that goes beyond the mind as thousands of individual birds move as one being. It's like watching a miracle, a mesmerizing pattern of life that appears almost as an animated, sacred, geometric screensaver, but is, in fact, a massive group of little black starlings, each with their own life and their own consciousness. What's amazing," he says, "is that these thousands of birds do not ever collide as they move as one in a connected consciousness, where their individuality is no more. They fly like one great bird." So way back in the day, in the 30s, a lot of scientists actually believed that most birds must be psychic in order to stay in these complex flocks together. And now we do understand it somewhat better, but I'd still agree that most birds are psychic. Because what is it to be psychic if not to tap into the ever-flowing consciousness of those around you? And that's essentially what those starlings are doing up there. In 2008, some Italian researchers were able to tap into that mystery by filming, studying, and recreating about 400 3D images of each screen of what the starlings were doing up there. And they found out that an individual starling is tapped into only about 7 or so of its closest neighbors, which makes a lot of sense, especially given that the starlings don't fly in a rigid formation. Rather, they fly in the swirly, synchronized pattern, and also that there can be millions of them at any given time. So it makes sense to only pay attention to a few. And another researcher identified 3 zones that each bird is concerned with: the attraction zone, the repulsion zone, and the angular alignment zone. The attraction zone signals who to move towards and when to do it. The repulsion zone indicates whose lane to stay out of so that you both don't fall. And the angular zone indicates when to follow your neighbor, all three at work, at all times, which is so much of what we do in covenant. And it's the best kind of covenant because it comes from necessity. These murmurations are cool, but they don't exist for no reason. From what we can learn, it happens like most things do happen in nature, for safety and for survival. They talk a lot about the information center hypothesis, and that it's a key factor in survival in sharing information among species, especially when resources and food is scarce. Mutual aid is something that we come up with based on this principle of the need to share information. And this is a long-term survival strategy, which is, of course, at odds with what we see each day in our lives. As Mary Oliver puts it in her poem, Starlings in Winter, how do they do it? With no articulated instruction, no pause, only the silent confirmation that they are this noble thing, this wheel of many parts that can rise and spin over and over again, full of gorgeous life. All world, she says, what lessons you prepare for us. Living architecture. That's what the work of ants is often referred to, living architecture. At the Georgia Institute for Technology, a researcher named David Hugh and his team, they've been cracking the code to the sophisticated systems of ants living in, as he puts it, bricks and also the brick layers. Although these ants, of course, are teeny tiny, they're not simple creatures, and neither is the work that the team has to do in order to study him. He describes the fire ants that he researches as skilled escape artists, building towers to escape the enclosures and creeping onto locked doors in their research facility. 3-day weekends aren't so fabulous anymore when you come back to work with nests of hundreds to thousands of ants under your desk. And we thank him for that service because what we learn and how we understand ants and other insects helps us to understand how we might self-organize and tackle our systems. There are 3 types of living architecture that are really fascinating: biovacs, rafts, and bridges. Biovacs are nests that the ants make, thousands of them. Rafts can get as big as dinner plates and float through the water, and bridges are pretty self-explanatory. But what's fascinating is that none of the individual ants know what's going on or what their particular role in it is. There's no central leader for these ants, which of course begs the question that we ask so much, how these tiny insects with such tiny brains can manage this intelligent design. One group of researchers found that the army ants that they were studying, who, when they are searching for food, their numbers could swell up to fill the length of a football field. They form 3 lanes of traffic. The middle lane is the inbound traffic carrying resources to the home, and the 2 outside lanes are taking resources back and forth, and this is completely self-organized. His team also discovered that if you drop a spoonful of ants into water, they'll blob together at first and then quickly form a flat and round structure. They do this by randomly walking the surface of the blob until they get to the water's edge where the structure grows. Eventually, these ants will make a waterproof, highly buoyant raft, about 70% air, and they'll keep building it as big as it needs to go so that they can get across and survive. And even ants at the bottom of the structure live. Another team working in the rainforest of the Panama Canal has been studying the ways in which army ants build bridges with their bodies. They found that the moment that one ant in the formation senses a gap on the trail, that ant immediately makes a bridge out of their body, followed by each ant in turn. And once the bridge is built, they can hold the weight of 100 or more of their friends, and they stay there until each ant has gotten across, and then they slowly break the bridge down in the same way that they put the bridge up. What that team is studying these days is how the ants even fasten themselves to one another in the first place in order to hold all of that overhead traffic. So why do we study ants? Some of these researchers have been studying ants for over 40 years, their entire career. And of course, it's okay to learn things for the sake of learning, but there's so much wisdom in this living architecture of ants. Major infrastructure improvements are being made from this research. It also leads to things like self-healing bridges that can detect their own cracks and mend them as well, traffic and road control strategies, resource management, natural disaster survival skills. There's so much to learn from these tiny creatures and what they create. It brings to mind for me the words of the eco-activist and the Buddhist scholar Joanna Macy. She says, to be alive in this beautiful, self-organizing universe, to participate in the dance of how outnumbered we are in this world, but the ways that animals are wise doesn't bring me despair or fear. It brings me hope, an active hope. The active hope that Joanna Macy talks about, she describes, active hope is not wishful thinking. Active hope is not waiting to be rescued by some savior. Active hope is waking up to the beauty of this life on whose behalf we can and do act because we belong to this world. The web of life calling us forth at this time. We've come a long way and we're here to play our part. With active hope, we realize that there are adventures in store, strengths to discover, and comrades to link arms with. Active hope is a readiness to discover the strength in ourselves and others, a readiness to discover the reasons for hope and the occasions for love, a readiness to discover the size and strength of our hearts, our quickness of mind, our steadiness of purpose, the liveliness of curiosity. And none of these can be discovered in an armchair without some risk. Survival of the nurtured. Survival of the linked together. Survival of the connected and the gracious and the kind and the open-hearted. Survival of the thriving and the thriving of the hopeful. Before my cat Zelda came to me, a previous owner of hers had abandoned her for a few weeks, and she still bears the emotional scars from it to today. And when I made the commitment to take her into my home, I committed to providing her a life worth living. Food she doesn't have to fight for, clean water, comfort, and most importantly, love. And I took a risk in taking her in. Over the course of our time together, she's needed a lot of medical care, a prescription diet, a major surgery, and I'd do it all over again. Because if I learn nothing else from any other animal, what I have learned from her is that we can come back. We can heal, we can mend, and that when we risk active hope, sometimes this world feels just a little more possible, even if my house is covered in fur. May it be so. Ashe.
We're going to sing together our postlude as a benediction in song, a hymn to our interconnection. I want to invite you to rise in body or in spirit. The hymn is Blue Boat Home. The lyrics will be on the back wall. Let's sing together. a great shared effort on the part of so many people make this ministry we do together possible. Today, I want to start by thanking our animal ministry team. Any of you who are on or participate with the animal ministry team, if you could raise your hands for us today. Our animal ministry team does ministry not just for, but with our animal companions, knowing that this relational work is indeed sacred. You can talk to them, find out more about the work they do, and you could purchase a water bottle that we're selling for $25 to help fund some of our social justice initiatives this congregational year. But most of all, you can talk with them about why this work is so much at the very heart of what River Road is and what their spiritual lives are. I also want to thank, as always, our tech crew. We've got Danny, Marcia, and Dave. Thank you. Everything we do together is an expression of how we want to be together. And there are so many ways that you can find out how to get connected with the life of the congregation and learn about all of the ways that we're serving each other in the world, including the fact that last week 12 people from our congregation, including a couple of you right here, and mostly youth and young adults, worked for a week in Coretta, West Virginia with Big Creek People in Action, installing siding on a house this year. It's a different piece of work we do every year. In past years, we have done everything from roofing, which in fact I did, standing on a roof in 95-degree weather, to painting. We do what is asked of us with graciousness while building community. Whatever the community needs is what we can help with. All ability levels have always been welcome, and you can save the dates for August 4 to 11 of next year if you want to join in. On Sunday, September 17th, we'll be hosting a film screening of Birthing Justice, followed by a panel moderated by Dr. Ebony Marcel, the director of midwifery at Community of Hope in D.C. These are times when what reproductive choice and freedom means deserve rich conversations and thoughtful effort. We hope you'll mark your calendars. And of course, as we're gearing up for the fall, there is always a lot going on at River Road. Among those things is a banned book festival that we are sponsoring along with the UU congregation of Fairfax. It's going to be wild and a great lot of fun. On September 30th, here at River Road, we hope to have a drag queen story outer, a whole lot of fun, time to be together. Keep your eyes out in the coming weeks for more information. And 2 more save the dates, because we're just trying to get it in early. Our annual College Access fundraiser featuring Daryl Davis will be September 30th. And we will have Dr. Shuai Wong and Anto Malakasian back by popular demand for our Partner Fest on October 21st. It is all coming, people, and we are so grateful for all the ways that we serve and celebrate in community.
Blessed are the animals. Blessed are the creatures who live with us and need our care. Blessed are the mammals and the reptiles and the birds who teach us we are not alone. Blessed are all living things whom we learn to love. Go now in peace.
All right, Cricket, it's your turn.